Hey YouTube, Prof Sales coming at you with another 10 at 10. So today's topic on 10 at 10 is about fear. I've been thinking about this one a lot lately, and I've gotten a lot of comments lately from people on business, especially when I did the video. I guess that was about a week ago where I did the video on should you go full-time or not. And I realized that there's a lot of fear out there in the reselling community and really just the community in general. So this video is maybe a little different because it's not specifically targeted on your business, but I think you can apply what I'm about to say to your business and maybe just lots of other things too, what I've learned over the last few years. And hopefully it'll be helpful to you. You can take it and, help to deal with your fears. So I wanted to talk about fear today. So if you're a human being, you have fear. Fear is a very normal human response to lots of different things that can come at us. And it takes one of there's several different fears that can come at us, but there's really only three ways that we tend to deal with it. And I learned this from my poker playing days because I would read these books on tells. Tells are things that people do subconsciously that can give away the strength or weakness of their hand and can also give away what they're likely to do next. And they're called a tell. So you could see certain mannerisms, certain things they do with their hands, with their shoulders, with their eyes, with their face, with their feet, with their legs. They can tell you what they're going to do next. And they're all based around three different responses that we have. So how do we deal with stress? Because stress comes from when something happens that we're not prepared for, that we're not sure how to deal with it. And there's really three different ways that we deal with stress. And I'm going to give you what I call the rattlesnake example. Okay, so that's my terrible looking rattlesnake. So suppose you're out in the wilderness and, here you are, you're all happy, and all of a sudden you see a rattlesnake. You have three different responses really that you're going to take given, a certain situation. So if the rattlesnake is far away, you will just run, more than likely. And we call that flight. This is like an evolutionary response. When we see something that we know is dangerous, we can, in certain situations, run away from it so that it doesn't hurt us, so that we don't have to deal with it anymore, so that it's not going to cause us any harm. But now let's suppose that, you're in a tent and the rattlesnake is in here with you. What's your response now? Well, when the rattlesnake is near and you can't run, or excuse me, it's right on top of you, your response might be to freeze. If the rattlesnake's right on top of you and you can't run away, then you may just freeze and hope that it goes away on its own. So we got flight and freeze, and we got one more. Let's say that you're in the tent, or your child is in the tent, right? And the rattlesnake is in there with it. Now your child's in danger, and you're not likely going to run away, and you can't freeze and do nothing. So now when you have this situation, we tend to fight because we have to do something. The snake is going to harm our child. It's going to harm someone we love. So we have to fight. We're going to have to deal with the snake, and it's not going to be easy, and we're afraid. But these three responses are what most of us take to fears, stress, stimuli. So let's talk about what that looks like in terms of your business, in terms of your life. Let's say you have a job and you hate it. You hate it for whatever reasons. You don't like it. You have kind of these three responses you can take to it. You can flight, which equals quit. You can quit that job. Go find something else to do. Now, it's not that you're running away and that's a bad thing. It's that, hey, you've decided this is not the right situation for you. You could freeze. You can gut it out and just stay and deal with it. You can deal with the crappy boss. You can deal with the coworkers you don't like. You can deal with doing the menial type of work that doesn't excite you, whatever it is. Or you could fight. You could seek a promotion. You could even try to change things there. So you have these different ways of dealing with the stress of your job. I'm going to take a wild guess and say that most of the people listening, and you guys can type in the chat or the comments later what you do. I'm going to guess that most people who have a job that they hate do this one. They freeze. And why do you freeze? Because these two take action. They're tougher. No doubt about it. It's harder to quit and go find something else a lot of times. And it's harder to fight and try to stay and make the place you're at better or even get a promotion. So most of the time you're going to do this and just gut it out. Now there's a problem with this strategy, guys, and you may not have figured it out. Eventually, the company may remove you and you don't quit, but they lay you off. They get rid of you. Or they may make it even tougher where they cut your pay, they reduce your benefits, they make your job harder. You have to work more hours. So this strategy, and when you have a job that you hate, is not always the best strategy. I find that a lot of times gutting it out, and sometimes you think you have to gut it out because I've got these bills to pay, I've got this person to take care of, I've got to do this. Granted, but there's other ways you can do it. So it's not like you always, I don't know why we think this, guys, but so many people I talk to seem to think that I have to find a job and it has to be, and it's not going to be something I like, and therefore I'm just going to have to deal with it. Why do we settle? Why do we settle for that? I don't understand that. I mean, I guess I've done it in the past and I was miserable. I was miserable. Freezing left me very unhappy. And I think it leaves most people unhappy. You don't have to do that. There are other ways, but I'm going to tell you like 4 strategies on how to handle fear, guys, that I find that really are helpful for me. And maybe you can incorporate these into your day, your week. There's really different ways to do it. I'm not a psychologist. I just play one on YouTube. But the reality is I think these 4 will, how to handle fear. Handle fear. All right, number 1, recognize it exists and it's natural. Fear is never going to go away in your life. People who jump out of planes for, skydivers, they get nervous and afraid every time because they know there's consequences if something goes wrong. And there's consequences for you if something goes wrong. But that's all right. It doesn't have to paralyze you. You can realize that fear is a normal human response to things that happen, and you can, once you recognize that it is normal, now you can start to deal with it. Write down all your fears. And the other part was all of them. Read each day. Mark off ones that no longer. All right, so this says write down your fears, all of them, even the trivial ones, little ones, big ones, small ones, doesn't matter, and read them each day. Read them each day. Mark off the ones that no longer apply. I think when you do this, you're going to find that a lot of the fears you have, while are still going to be there, they're not going to paralyze you and keep you unable to do anything, because a lot of them are up here. They're more up here than they are out here in reality. You may have a deathly fear of snakes, for instance. Lots of people are afraid of snakes. But if you live in the middle of New York City, it's probably not that likely you're going to run into a snake. So having this irrational fear of going outside, for instance, because you might run into a snake, doesn't make a whole lot of sense. You could live your whole life living in the middle of New York City and never see a snake. And of course it's possible. Anything's possible. But there's lots of fears we all have that just aren't that likely to happen to us. So number 3, write down your blessings. All of you guys have something you're thankful for in your life, someone you're thankful for in your life, something that's happened that's good for you. Write them down. It's important. And the reason is because you're going to need to read these each day as well, because you're going to find that you're just like this empty vessel. We all are. People are empty inside, and we look for things to fill us up. Sometimes we look for things that are good for us. Sometimes we look for things that are not so good for us. Sometimes it's not real clear until after we do it whether they were good or not so good. But when you fill your mind with this, there's less for this. And I'm going to tell you guys, a lot of fears are never going to come true, as we mentioned, and you're going to see the blessings you have every single day. And that's important. You've got to start realizing that you have things that you can be thankful for, even if they're small things. Like, I'm thankful for when I go to a store and there's a spot close to the front door. It's a little thing, but man, it changes your perception of it. Like, you walk around in this state of being thankful for things instead of always looking for the negative and things to be upset about. And the last one is, and this is the hardest one for a lot of people, including me, tell someone your fears. Someone you trust, someone you love, someone who cares about you. Tell someone your fears. The reason you do this is because keeping them inside makes them 100 times worse than what they really are. If you can tell someone about your fears, you're going to find a couple things. One, you're going to find it's very cathartic just to tell someone. Just the act of getting it out helps minimize its damage and its impact on us. And the second thing you're probably going to find is that they probably have similar fears or fears they will share. And that's encouraging to hear, to know that you're not alone. I mean, none of us want to go through life thinking we're alone. It's like, I'm probably the only one who feels like this. No one's ever felt this bad, this horrible, this terrible, this paralyzed. Well, that's not true. There's plenty of people who've probably felt that way, but you're not going to know that unless you reach out to someone and let them know how you're feeling and what you're thinking. And it's really a cool thing when you can do that, because people will respond back and say, you know what? Me too. I've had that exact same thought. I've had that exact same fear. So that's so interesting that you have as well, and we can be a source of encouragement and strength for each other, which I think is really important. So tell someone about your fears. So there's some tips, guys, on how to handle it. If you're thinking about changing jobs, if you're thinking about a new relationship, if you're deciding if you want to buy a new car or not, whatever it is that's causing you fear, guys, you can deal with it, because it's normal, it's natural, but there's ways you can deal with it and not let it rule your life. So leave me a question or comment down below. Share some of your fears down below, guys. I mean, I know it's a public forum, but hey, this is what we're here for. Let us know what you're thinking and how you're feeling about things. And hit the like button if you like the content. And of course, subscribe if you want to see each video when it comes out. We'll be back. I think Karen will be back tomorrow with you guys for 10 at 10. She's sitting in the other room. So hopefully this was helpful to you guys today, and I will see you all real soon. Thanks. Take care.